Warning: this video uses details originating in War of the Spark, Forsaken, written by Greg Weisman. This novel's canonicity is debated. Across the vast expanses of the multiverse, mankind has made its home on a variety of planes. These worlds can differ wildly and can be home to many different creatures, not all of them friendly towards humanity. But while humans may face threats on these worlds, the planes themselves are rarely the threats they face. A notable exception to this standard can be found in the world of Tolvada, a plane whose sky has been cracked by unknown causes. These cracks in the sky take the appearance of a jagged, multi-hued aurora, and these lights seem to drive the inhabitants of the world mad. It is on Tolvada that the planeswalker known as Kaya would be born. Kaya is a young woman born into a family with distant ties to nobility. She possesses the ability to turn parts of her body intangible, allowing her to move through solid objects. This ability also allows Kaya to physically interact with spirits and ghosts, creatures of the immaterial. This ability, when used in conjunction with a weapon, allows her to slay ghosts easier than the average exorcist. She can also briefly extend this power to others, protecting them from harm or allowing them to follow her through physical barriers. It is unknown whether this ability is something Kaya learned from somebody else, or if it is a power she had always possessed. Similarly, it is unknown when her planeswalker spark ignited, or why. What is known is that Kaya's abilities interact in a unique way with her planeswalking powers. If Kaya turns someone she's in contact with intangible before planeswalking, she can physically bring them with her through the blind eternities into another world, something no other planeswalker alive after the mending is currently able to do. After her spark ignited, Kaya decided to put her unique skills to use, taking on mercenary-like work and eliminating ghosts for coin. And though Kaya had a self-professed hatred for the dead, if and how she exercised a given spirit often came down to her own personal whimsy. On the plane of Fiora, for instance, Kaya would be hired by a foul-mouthed and ill-mannered nobleman, one Emilio Ravari, whose recently acquired home was haunted by the specter of his own recently deceased mother. After a brief struggle with the spirit, however, Kaya came to learn that it was Emilio himself who was responsible for his own mother's death. Disgusted, Kaya left the home, returning later with the Lord Ravari, telling him that his ghost troubles would all soon be over. Kaya then handed the man over to the spirit of his mother, giving the ghost the vengeance it needed before it moved on. Later, Kaya would be approached by one of the most influential individuals on Fiora, a woman by the name of Marchesa, who hired the planeswalker to exorcise the spirit of Brago, the king of the high city of Paliano. Unaware that Brago was now little more than a figurehead for the corrupt Custodi, Kaya believed Marchesa's claims that he was a tyrant in life and now a tyrant in death. The Planeswalker used her magic to secret herself into the palace, and used that same magic to assassinate Brago's ghost, forcing him to rest in peace. Kaya was forced to briefly defend herself from Adriana, Brago's personal guard, but managed to escape unscathed. The deed was done, and the king was dead, paving the way for Marchesa's rise to the throne. Next, Kaya would be approached by the draconic planeswalker Nicol Bolas, who offered to help her family in exchange for her services. Bolas wanted the leaders of the Orzov Guild, the collection of ghosts known as the Obzedat, eliminated. The Obzedat were one of the pillars of Ravnica, bringing stability to the city thanks to how they ran their guild, and the spectral armies they commanded were something Bolas was wary of. Kaya, however, saw only more corrupt spirits that refused to pass on, and accepted the dragon's offer. Thanks to a distraction caused by Ral Zarek of the Izzet League, Vraska, the guild master of the Golgari, and the Rakdos emissary Hekara, as well as aid and information provided by Teysa Karlov, herself imprisoned by the Ghost Council, Kaya was able to gain access to the inner sanctum of the Obzedat and slew the leaders of the Orzov. To her surprise, however, Kaya found that by slaying the Obzedat, the position of Guildmaster passed to her, thanks in part to the powerful contract magic utilized by the Ghost Council's members. When Kaya slew the leaders of the Obzedat, their responsibilities, as well as their debts and obligations, passed to her, both legally and magically. As a result, Kaya was trapped on Ravnica, forced to take on the role as guild leader, at least publicly, while Lady Karlov handled affairs behind the scenes. If she attempted to planeswalk, it was possible that the magic of the contract would interpret the action as attempting to escape her duties. In such an event, the magic would respond violently, a risk Kaya couldn't take. The new guildmaster was approached again by a disguised Nicol Bolas, who suspected that this might be the outcome. To Kaya, he repeated his offer to help her family, and even to get her out of the contract, if she would but act out her role as guildmaster and attend the upcoming guild summit. Kaya was unquestionably a better exorcist than she was a guildmaster. Under her guidance, the Orzov Guild found itself weakened and in turmoil. Kaya personally forgave many existing debts, allowed the spirits bound to the guild to go free, and exponentially raised the tithes owed by civilians. This made her no friends within the guild. Many in the Orzov refused to even acknowledge her authority beyond what was forced by the magic of her station, and caused rioting among the populace who could not keep up with the new levels of taxation Kaya decreed. Kaya did attend the guild summit and heard Niv Mizzet's request to be granted the powers of the guild pact in order to help combat Bolas. But with the murder of Asperia, the summit fell apart, and the threat Nicol Bolas posed to Ravnica became, suddenly, much more pressing. After a brief altercation with Teysa, who was placed back under arrest, Kaya assisted Ral Zarek in activating the interplanar beacon, sending the call out throughout the multiverse to planeswalkers, beckoning them to Ravnica in an attempt to combat Bolas, who had, only moments prior, slain Niv-Mizzet in battle. Unfortunately, so many planeswalkers assembled in one place was exactly what the Tyrant of Worlds desired, and with the activation of the Eternal Sun and the summoning of his Dread Horde army through the Planar Bridge, his war on Ravnica and the Planeswalkers, the War of the Spark, could begin. During the initial hours of the battle, Kaya had made friends with Teo Varada, a newly sparked planeswalker, as well as the mysterious gateless citizen Arathia Shakta, better known as Rat. With some difficulty, Kaya was able to rally the Orzov to fight against Bolas's army, reminding the leaders within the guild that if Ravnica falls, they would be unable to collect on their debts. Afterwards, Kaya attended an assembly of planeswalkers to help form a counter-offensive against the dragon. Several goals were set for the assembled walkers, such as deactivating the Immortal Sun and the Interplanar Beacon. Kaya, as the representative of the Orzov, took up the task of rallying the Selesnya, Gruul, Golgari, and Rakdos, not only to battle against Bolas, but to reform the Guild Pact after the dragon had destroyed the ley lines used to maintain it. It took some time, but Kaya was able to get each of the guilds to cooperate, and with all 10 of Ravnica's guilds working in concert, alongside Nissa Ravain's magic, the ley lines were reformed, and Niv-Mizzet was resurrected and empowered as the new living Guild Pact. Kaya joined in with many other planeswalkers and fighters from Ravnica in the final charge on Bolas's citadel, and was among the survivors celebrating the defeat of the dragon. In the aftermath, for her role in Nicol Bolas's plans, Kaya was tasked by Niv-Mizzet himself with hunting down and killing Liliana Vess. Even though Vess ultimately turned on Bolas and led to his defeat, her command of the Dread Horde led to thousands of innocent deaths, and this act could not be forgiven. Around this time, Kaya also took up the Oath of the Gatewatch, joining the group to help atone for her hand in weakening Ravnica before Bolas's invasion. While the following may or may not have occurred, it is possible that, after temporarily transferring her contracts and guildmaster status to Tomek Vrona, Kaya set off on the search for Liliana, accompanied by Teo Varada, Rat, who was brought along thanks to Kaya's planeswalking, and, briefly, Jaya Ballard. Their journey eventually took them to Dominaria, where they parted with Jaya and, not long after, encountered Vess held under enchantment, working as a servant for an impostor that claimed both her name and her estate. It was thanks to the powers of an imprisoned djinn, Zahid, that this impostor was able to control a planeswalker as powerful as Liliana. Kaya and her friends battled against Zahid, killing his mistress and repelling the djinn. Afterwards, Kaya took pity on Liliana, sparing her life, though she took the chain veil back to Ravnica as proof of the kill. Regardless of whether or not her hunt for Vess occurred, Sometime later, Kaya was hired by an anonymous client to hunt for a monster on the multi-realmed plane of Kaldheim. On that world, Kaya would become acquainted with the Omen Seekers and their leader, Inga. Together, this group would track down Kaya's target to the woods of Bretagard, where they eventually came across a beast of flesh and metal. Kaya and the Omen Seekers battled against this vicious monster, but were overwhelmed and would have been killed were it not for the intervention of Alrund, one of the local gods. The monster fled after Alrund appeared, and Kaya followed, being allowed to use the longship of another god, Cosima, to follow the beast through the realms of Kaldheim. However, Kaya would lose the monster's trail, instead coming across the fiendish planeswalker Tybalt, who was sowing discord on Kaldheim for his own chaotic ends. Impersonating the god Valki and using the Sword of the Realms, Tybalt's aim was to cause total war to erupt across Kaldheim. Tybalt fled from Kaya, leaving behind a group of trolls to occupy her. The ghost hunter fought her best against these beasts of stone and muscle, but her daggers were broken by their hides, and she would have lost her life if not for the aid of Tyvar Kell, a planeswalker native to Kaldheim. Together, Kaya and Tyvar tracked Tybalt to the realm of Immerstrom, battling their way through the demons of that hellish scape. It was here that Tyvar would craft for Kaya a pair of combat axes to replace the daggers she lost. Eventually, the pair was able to catch up with Tybalt and, after a brief fight, they learned that he had already achieved his goals, the half-devil departing the world now that it was about to descend into war. Having retrieved the Sword of the Realms, Kaya and Tyvar raced to try and save Kaldheim from the chaos Tybalt created. Alongside Tyvar and the other warriors of Kaldheim, Kaya participated in a great battle against the demons of Immerstrom and the Draugr of Karfell. After passing the Sword of the Realms to Halvar, the god of battle, the doomscar caused by Tybalt was closed, though not before Kaya was able to slay the legendary demon Varagoth. It is only after that battle concludes that Kaya, recalling the monster that drew her to Kaldheim in the first place, suspects that it, like herself, might not be a native to the world. She returns to Ravnica, informing her allies in the Gatewatch about just what she encountered, and they conclude that the monster may have been a Phyrexian. Not long after, Kaya was on Ravnica when Arlen Cord sought out the Gatewatch for help in locating the Moonsilver Key on Innistrad. This artifact was needed to activate the Celestus, a device that could potentially reverse the shortening days of the world. Alongside Teferi and Chandra, Kaya agrees to help Arlen Cord. On Innistrad, Kaya puts her skills as a ghost hunter to work, especially when the group winds up in a mansion filled with spirits. After one Geist in particular reveals the location of the key, Kaya and the others make their way to Markov Manor, where Sorin refuses to help them, even becoming hostile towards the group. It is only after the intervention of the Angel Sigarda that the party is able to retrieve the key and commence with the Harvest Festival, though a pack of werewolves led by Tovalar an old acquaintance of Arlen's, attacks. Kaya joins the others in repelling the werewolf assault, though it was all for naught, as in the end, Olivia Voldaren interrupts the ritual, slaying the witch Catilda and stealing the Moonsilver Key. Not long after, Soren approaches the group to get their help with interrupting Olivia's plans. The Voldaren matriarch has stolen Soren's grandfather, intending to marry the Elder Markov to gain absolute control over Innistrad and its vampires. Kaya, alongside the other planeswalkers and the Cathar Adeline, accompanied Soren to the Voldaren manor, though only Soren was allowed access to the wedding within. While the group waited outside, Soren disrupted Olivia's ceremony, freeing the spirit of Catilda from within the Moonsilver Key. The ghost then in turn freed Sigarda, whom Olivia had somehow managed to capture, and the angel, in turn, used her holy magic to destroy the mystic barriers placed around the manor. Kaya and her allies forced their way into the building, with Kaya using her powers to free the spirits of the dead trapped throughout the premises, even the specters held within Olivia's own wedding gown. These geists ran rampant, attacking their own captors and sowing more discord throughout the manor. By the end of the battle, Olivia was defeated and fled, and the Moonsilver Key was recovered, allowing the ritual to be completed and restoring the proper balance between day and night on Innistrad. After the new Phyrexians' invasion of Dominaria was repelled, the Gatewatch was assembled to figure out a way to end the threat Phyrexia posed to the multiverse. Though the Silex Karn had dug up was destroyed by a now Phyrexian Ajani, Saheeli was able to replicate the device, and it was agreed that the best course of action would be to attack New Phyrexia and use the Silex to destroy the plane. However, though they had the Golgothian Silex, the Gatewatch had no idea how to use the artifact. And so, with the help of a device Saheeli constructed known as the Temporal Anchor, Teferi would travel back in time and learn from Urza himself how to use the Silex. Normally, traveling through time is dangerous, with few physical materials being able to survive the process. This is where Kaya's aid was necessary. Using her magic, Kaya could separate Teferi's spirit from his body and send that back in time to get the answers they needed. Kaya stayed with Teferi while his spirit traveled to the past, while other members of the Gatewatch, such as Chandra, and other Planeswalker allies like Elspeth and Ren, defended the tower they were in from Phyrexian assault. Eventually, Teferi was able to learn how to activate the Silex, though damage to the Temporal Anchor left him comatose. Before he was rendered unconscious, Teferi was able to pass on the information to Kaya, and she joined the other members of the Gatewatch as they made preparations to begin their assault on New Phyrexia. Kaya made her first appearance in the supplementary set Conspiracy Take the Crown. Kaya, Ghost Assassin, is a planeswalker with 5 starting loyalty that costs 2 generic mana, a white mana, and a black mana. Her first loyalty ability, costing 0 loyalty, exiled Kaya or up to 1 target creature. that card would be returned to the battlefield under its owner's control at the beginning of your next upkeep. You also lost 2 life. For 1 loyalty, Kaya could gain you 2 life and take 2 life from each opponent, and for 2 loyalty, Kaya could make each opponent discard a card and let you draw a card. This was a mechanically interesting Planeswalker card, with Kaya being able to essentially reset her loyalty to 5 each turn if her controller wished. Over the years, Kaya would receive several other cards, thanks in part to her becoming one of the main characters of Magic's story. Kaya's role in the lore is not yet done. Like so many other Planeswalkers, she and the Gatewatch are set to take on new Phyrexia in the near future, so it's very likely that we've not seen the last of this ghostly Planeswalker. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, then why not leave a like or share this video with your friends. If you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications, you'll be alerted whenever I upload new videos. If you have a suggestion for a topic you'd like me to cover, let me know in the comments section below. Finally, if you'd like to support me directly, check out my Patreon. Patrons get early access to all of my lore content, and I genuinely appreciate their support. A link to the Patreon page will be found below. Thanks again, and have a great day.